surprise, unless it's not, involving the Hall of Fame voting. If you didn't see this or hear about it, Robert Kraft, not so crafty. He's not a crafty devil. The Super Bowl winning owner 6 times, because he had Tom Brady, owner of the Patriots, the Robert Kraft, had been considered a favorite by many to be elected in the Hall of Fame class of 2025. However, since I'm talking about this right now, you've probably figured out he has been rejected, passed over yet again by the Hall of Fame Contributors Committee, the 9-member committee, clearly not fans of the Patsies. Each year they decide who's going to get in, right? Who advances one name for consideration by all 50 Hall of Fame voters. And instead of Robert Kraft, they chose, this is so funny, what a kick to the balls of Robert Kraft. They chose somebody named Ralph Hay. Do you know who Ralph Hay is? No, you don't. Ralph Hay was the co-founder of what became the National Football League. He was the owner of the Canton Bulldogs from 1918 to 1922. He's been dead since 1944. And I read a little bit about him, and if I read this properly, Ralph Hay, when he ran the Canton Bulldogs, did not believe that players should be paid to play football. And that guy has zoomed past the owner of the Patriots. So you shouldn't be surprised, because this year marks now the 13th consecutive year that Robert Kraft, who is in his mid-80s, had been considered by the Hall of Fame committee but failed to advance out of the committee phase. 80% of the voters must approve the nomination finalist to be inducted into the Hall of Fame there in Canton, Ohio. But Robert Kraft did not make the cut, so let us discuss. He's not happy about this. The question for the jury: Robert Kraft has been denied a trip to the Hall of Fame for the class of 2025. Are you okay with that? Are you okay with it? So I've got Inside Baseball. Also the principal's office, and if that was not enough, the magic carpet ride. We'll combine all of these things together, and we'll give you a headache, unless we don't. We're going to try not to give you a headache. So to lead off here, as far as the Robert Kraft question, yeah, I'm good. I'm not going to lose any sleep. I'm up all night anyway. When I go to bed during the day, I'm not going to be like, oh, crap, Robert Kraft isn't in the Hall of Fame. I do find it amusing because of the amount of money Robert Kraft has, the amount of wealth, the riches of Solomon. And this has been his life's focus. Like, in his head, Robert Kraft believes this is the ultimate cemetery to get into in Canton, Ohio. And it's unlike every other, most cemeteries people don't visit, right? You don't visit your cemetery very rarely. Relatives that are dead, you don't visit them very often. You know, you move on, you're living your life. But that's like a cemetery which is alive, these Hall of Fames. You want to be in, that's the cemetery you want to be in. And so Robert Kraft has been working behind the scenes to get into the Hall of Fame. It's his life's goal, and they won't let him in. And on some level, that's hilarious because he's got all the cash, right? Spent a ton of money trying to sway voters. Now, normally that happens. If you study, like I know in politics, if you study elections, the candidate that spends more money wins most of the time. Most of the time. But this time it's backfired. And if you go inside baseball, well, this is football. Just go inside baseball. It's a term. It's political. It's got to be political. Robert Kraft, he must have urinated in someone's Cheerios along the way. I don't know who. This has been going on for 13 years. So it's not just that some people say, well, it's the rub and tug that he got in Florida. It's probably not that. It's the Aaron Hernandez look the other way while he was killing somebody. That's probably not what it was. Lately, Robert Kraft he bankrolled a hit job on Belichick, that Apple docuseries that made it seem like it was Robert Kraft that was the genius of the Patriots and not Belichick. And this year marks the 13th year, as we mentioned, that Kraft has not been allowed in the Hall of Fame. And so he just continues to sit there and twiddle his thumbs. He's not getting any younger. And they show him on TV all the time. He's one of the 5 or 6 owners that gets on television all the time. It's Jerry Jones in Dallas. Robert Kraft is on that short list. There's a couple of other owners. The owner of the Eagles gets a lot of TV time. And 2 or 3 others. They show all the time. But we know from boots on the ground there around the Patriots that Robert Kraft has done everything he can to try to convince voters by sending them books and sending them gifts in the mail and all, and they have not voted for 13 years in a row now. All right, furthermore, we head to, speaking of Jerry Jones, Jerry's World. Now, last week, you might remember, we talked about the Micah Parsons story. Micah Parsons, the edge rusher for the Cowboys, who's better as a podcaster than a football player. So Micah Parsons claimed that he was just going to eat the fine associated with skipping his mandated media availability. And this week, he was on the cusp of getting that nice big fine. And ta-da! Parsons popped up on the Thursday availability. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Now, the big revelation, if you will. Micah Parsons got up in front of the microphones and he used the A word. He apologized for his recent comments all the way back on November 10th that questioned the integrity, the work ethic of the rotund Mike McCarthy. So I ask you the question. Why has Micah Parsons now publicly apologized over a week later to the Cowboys coach Mike McCarthy? So my theory on this, after a minutes-long analysis, is that someone from the Dallas PR staff talked to him. They had to talk, right? Parsons was put on timeout. He was sent to the principal's office. And so now he's genuflecting. The forced apology, which is what this obviously is, the forced apology is a timeless, insincere ritual in all of life. But we're talking about sports, right? It goes on all the time. The forced, insincere apology. Make no mistake, if you wait 11 days to do something, there's compelling evidence that it was orchestrated. Hello? All right, now, last thing. A lot of news out of college football. One of the stories that caught my attention, the two-way star for Coach Prime, Travis Hunter, projected as a top 5 pick in the 2025 NFL draft. Some of the mock drafts have him going at the very top of the draft. So he has said that he will absolutely be saying bye-bye to the Buffaloes, that he will be leaving Colorado and heading to the NFL. So there's not a lot of surprise to this. Hunter has made bank in the minute he's been at Colorado. It's been a minute. He's spent a lot of money, NIL money, and he's going to make even more money hand over fist in the NFL. So the question, Colorado wide receiver Travis Hunter is for sure entering the NFL draft 2025. What are the chances as a wide receiver he goes number 1 overall? What are the chances? So I am going to set the odds on this as, thank you, delayed. She's eating a donut right now. I'll give her a break.
With the sprinkles.
With the sprinkles? Yeah. All right. Anyway, I'm going to set the odds on this at plus 700. Plus 700. So there has been no wide receiver, to my knowledge, drafted number 1 overall since Keyshawn Johnson. And that's a generation ago in 1996. I don't recall since then a wide receiver going number 1. Give me the damn ball. But in terms of that, plus 700, it is more likely than not that this magic carpet ride that Travis Hunter is on will end up with a top 5 pick in the draft, but not, do we want to hear the jingle again? Not number 1 overall. will not go at the very top of the draft. But I could see him as like a number 2 or number 3 pick. Just on my draft board, my big board, I don't see it. I don't. I simply do not. By the way, if you're not good with math, the plus 700 implies about a 10%, a little better than 10% chance that this cat goes at the very top of the NFL draft. And the reason teams love to overdraft mediocre quarterbacks. Shadur Sanders, for example, of cover. I don't know if he's going to be mediocre or not, but if you look at where he was projected like a year ago and where he is now, he's skyrocketed up. Cam Ward of Miami, who runs hot and cold, he's also projected to be a top 5 pick in the draft. And it's better because they're supposedly cheaper when you draft them as rookies, and there's a supply chain shortage. I get all that. So that's where we are on Travis Hunter. The other story is this Michigan news that they flipped the top college football player in the upcoming recruiting class, the quarterback, Mr. Underwood. He got $12 million. He was supposed to go to LSU, and he did the old switcheroo and said, I want to go to Ann Arbor. And I want to go play for Michigan. And if there was a team in Pyongyang, the Pyongyang Pirates, if they offered him $15 million, he would go to Pyongyang, and I don't blame him. I don't blame him.